This is a typical roller coaster. High thrill, high intensity, high G-force, gives you that nice shot of adrenaline to get your heart pounding. A ride that almost anybody can enjoy. This, on the other hand, is a roller coaster that was specifically designed to kill you in 1 minute via extreme G-force and suffocation of the brain. A hypothetical ride known as the euthanasia coaster. And today, I'm gonna make it even more deadly. I'm gonna make this ride the most dangerous roller coaster that's ever been conceived, to ensure that everyone will perish on this ride. No matter your health, your physical abilities, this ride will take every last soul. This is the new euthanasia coaster. Alright, this is a video I've had on my bucket list for quite some time now. Some of you may recall I've already talked about the euthanasia coaster a few years ago, and my conclusion of that video was, although the euthanasia coaster, it was a unique design, I didn't think it would theoretically work. Meaning that the majority of people who would ride this hypothetical coaster, they probably wouldn't die. I know, it sounds crazy. The roller coaster that's designed to end you probably can't even do that. So you know what? I'm gonna be a dreamer. I'm gonna actually think of a roller coaster that can get rid of every rider. And it will be dubbed the new euthanasia coaster. Sorry, Mr. Jill Jonas or Bonus. Your design is about to become obsolete. So, just to recap, the euthanasia coaster was a concept that came out in 2010. It was designed by Mr. Urbonus, a Lithuanian man. Yes, Lithuanian, he is not French. Everyone can get off my back about that. He is what I would describe as a pretentious artist. He has a bunch of bold and brash concepts that most of the time don't make a lot of sense and are just plain stupid. Despite this, he was most widely known for the euthanasia coaster. Everything else, very questionable. Pieces like the Dead Body Planet and the Forced Interpretive Dance Simulator and the Vomit Simulator, I don't freaking know. They were all questionable art projects that, I don't even know what to say about them. But the euthanasia coaster was the one piece that pop culture actually gravitated towards, just because it was an interesting concept. To recap how the ride worked, it would have a height of 1,600 feet, about 500 meters, and would reach a top speed of 220 miles per hour, and would enter a series of 7 loops. Each one would have a max G-force of 10. This was a number that was believed to be lethal enough to the passengers that if you're exposed to it for a long enough period of time, that being 1 minute, you would subsequently die. What would be the cause of death? Hypoxia. Hypoxia is a condition where the brain doesn't receive enough oxygen, which would eventually lead to brain death. This would be induced by the intense positive G-force because on the ride, all your blood is going to be forced downward to your feet and your lower abdomen, meaning the upper half of your body, and most importantly, your brain, is not going to receive any blood, which means no oxygen. This will cause you to gray out, losing some vision, and then completely blacking out, going completely unconscious. This would occur around the first loop, and since this is a constant G loop, the ride's going to maintain 10 Gs of force throughout the entire experience. This is achieved by making sure each loop gets gradually smaller, so as you're losing speed, there's enough centrifugal acceleration to ensure that 10 Gs is sustained throughout the entire cycle. And theoretically, by the end of the ride, your brain cells should have died because of the absence of oxygen. That is what should happen when you ride the euthanasia coaster, but I don't think this would work. I do not think the euthanasia coaster is long enough in duration to actually end somebody. 1 minute without oxygen along with 10 Gs of constant pressure applied to your body, yes, it will leave some long-term damage. However, it's not going to put you down. In the health community, it's very unclear how long your brain has to be deprived of oxygen before it can be pronounced legally dead. I found articles that say that brain death can't even occur until around the 3 to 6 minute mark, and other articles that claim that brain death can't even happen until the 10-minute mark. Sure, some, if not all, patients will have severe mental handicaps and have most of their brain cells dead, but it's still in the realm of possibility that they can at least be alive. Not all there, but alive. Only 1 minute of ride time will just begin the process of brain cells to die. It's not the end-all be-all. Realistically, the only people who would die in the euthanasia coaster are guests who are already sick or have severe health complications. And yes, that is what Mr. Urbanus intended. He intended for only the ill to ride the euthanasia coaster. It was meant to be a last hurrah for those who are probably in hospice near the end of their life and want to go out in a blaze of glory and enjoy their last few moments. In theory, that sounds beautiful, but that doesn't work for the advertising for the euthanasia coaster. The ride design is supposed to finish every rider, not a select few riders. So I'm gonna alter the design. We're gonna make this thing 100% lethal. And I'm not going to achieve this by just extending the ride time. No. I'm going to keep this new euthanasia coaster as true to the original design as possible. Same height, same speed, same number of loops. All I'm going to do is take the 7 inversions and flip it. I know this might not seem like a major change, but trust me, by just flipping the loops upside down and changing positive g-force to negative g-force, I have single-handedly 10x the death factor. And now, no matter what, whether you're sick or in your peak physical ability, there is 0 chance for you to survive. How? Well, let's go over my new design. The main difference between these 7 loops and the original 7 is that I inverted the inversion. I know that's an oxymoron, but trust me, this changes everything. On a traditional clothoid vertical loop, you enter at the bottom, and suddenly you're pushed into your seat. That's positive g-force. This one, you're gonna rise to the top and immediately enter an airtime hill. So this time you're gonna experience negative g-force, be pulled out of your seat. The difference between the new and old euthanasia coaster is the old one you're maintaining positive, this one you're maintaining negative. So instead of the blood rushing from your head to your feet, it's going to be rushing from your feet to your head. Instead of a lack of blood to the brain, there's going to be a surplus. My main goal in doing this, instead of inducing hypoxia, I'm trying to cause a cerebral hemorrhage or cardiac arrest. So for this impossible loop, you're going to have an overload of ejector airtime, and you're going to maintain that overload for the 1-minute duration. Because of this, all the blood's going to go rushing straight for your head, and instead of your vision going dark and gray, it's going to become bright and red until you eventually go unconscious. This is known as a redout, which is basically the same as a blackout, but you're going unconscious because of an excess of blood instead of a lack of it. When there's too much blood going towards your brain cells are gonna get overwhelmed, inflate, and swell until eventually, pop! They're gonna burst and you're gonna start bleeding internally. This is the cerebral hemorrhage. It is very fatal, very bad for you, and there's almost no way to stop it. With all that blood pouring into your head, at 10 Gs of force, a cerebral hemorrhage is almost guaranteed. And if it's not your brain that kills you, it will almost certainly be your heart. Your heart is a vital organ to your body. It pumps blood constantly throughout the day, and it's really good at pumping blood even if there's a lot of pressure being placed on your body, as long as it's compressive pressure. This is tensile. You're being pulled away from your seat. So now, your heart, it has to pump against the force of gravity, and at 10 times that. This will ruin your heart's circadian rhythm and put so much stress on it that it might just give out, resulting in complete cardiac arrest. Yikes. So, this new euthanasia coaster, if you ride this, it will cause internal bleeding or it can completely stop your heart. 2 scenarios that will ensure death, but will probably not be the main cause of death. There's something I forgot to tell you guys about this new euthanasia coaster. Something that would ensure you die after the first loop. What's the reason? Well, there is a possibility that you can be ejected from the ride. And not in the sense that the restraint will pop up or Final Destination style. No, more in the sense that the centrifugal acceleration is so great that you might be physically ripped in half. And if you think I'm over exaggerating, well, let me just show you the math. So, on a roller coaster, there is a certain amount of negative g-force that the body can withstand. The traditional maximum is about 2 Gs, and it's expected you only experience it for about 0.2 seconds. Remember, you're experiencing 10 Gs for a minute. So it's very likely that the force is so strong that your legs physically can't withstand the force and your upper torso will be separated. If we look at Newton's second law of motion, force equals mass times acceleration, and plug in the values to see how much force it would take to remove someone from the roller coaster, ooh, it doesn't look too good for the rider. First off, when we plug in acceleration, it's 9.8 meters per second, but we're gonna 10x that because, again, 10 times the force of gravity, so it's 98.1 meters per second. Next, we apply the force it would take to remove a limb. How will we find that number? Okay, 10 kilonewtons, which is equivalent to 2,200 pounds of force. So if we plug all these numbers in, we get a mass of 219 pounds. Now, what does this number mean? Well, if you weighed that amount, 219 pounds, that is a required weight for you to be ripped from the ride. A mass of almost 220 pounds going at an acceleration of 98.1 will generate 10 kilonewtons of force, the required amount for your body to tear away. Now, we could say that this isn't true. You do have 2 legs, so that creates a double shear force, so the required mass would actually be 440 pounds, but that really doesn't matter. At that force, your joints are going to dislocate, your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, they're all going to tear and strain, and that itself is going to cause internal bleeding. Even if we didn't have a lap bar and opted for an over-the-shoulder restraint, your head would be torn, you would get decapitated. There is almost no way you can survive this roller coaster. Your body cannot withstand tensile stress. We're pretty good at compressive, tension, not so much. So if you rode this new euthanasia coaster, chances are your upper half is gonna go flying somewhere else and your bottom half is gonna enjoy the rest of the ride. And even if you somehow didn't rip away, a cerebral hemorrhage or cardiac arrest will put you down no matter what. But there we have it, the new euthanasia coaster. A bold new take from the original design, if I do say so myself. Sure, the original you could technically survive, but would that really warrant the title of the coaster that kills you? I don't think so. This one actually does what it says it's gonna do. The only question that remains is which one would you rather ride? One that gives you more positive forces, or one where it's a never-ending airtime hell? Sure, you might get cut in half, but it's probably worth it.